How to express yourself without needing validation. Have you ever shared your thoughts only to be met with silence? Or worse, with a polite nod that feels more like dismissal than understanding? You know, when we're younger, it's easier to brush those moments off. There's always someone else to talk to, someplace else to be. But as we get older, our circle often gets smaller. And suddenly, every word we speak feels like it needs to matter more. Like we need it to be heard. To be valued. To be validated. But here's the hard truth: if we spend our days waiting for others to approve, to clap, to say yes, you're right, we'll be stuck in silence far too often. And that silence? It chips away at something deep inside. I want to talk to you today, not about shouting to be heard. Not about proving anything. But about something stronger. More peaceful. I want to talk about how to express yourself from a place that doesn't need a round of applause. A place that knows its own truth. Because the truth is, at this point in your life, you've earned the right to speak freely. You've walked through decades of storms and sunshine. You've raised children. You've buried loved ones. You've worked jobs, fought battles, nursed others, built homes, and held people together with nothing but your words and your will. And all of that, it makes your voice powerful, even if no one else is clapping. Let's begin with something simple but powerful: knowing your own intention before you speak. That alone can change everything. Imagine you're in a conversation and you want to share a story, maybe about something that happened to you years ago. You pause. And then you wonder, will they care? Will they think it's silly? Will they roll their eyes or check their phones? So you stay quiet. But if, before you speak, you tell yourself, I'm not sharing this to impress. I'm sharing this because it's mine. Because it shaped me. Because it matters to me, then suddenly, their reaction becomes just background noise. You're not waiting for their approval. You're honoring your story. You see, expressing yourself without needing validation begins with self-respect. It's choosing to speak your truth even when the room goes quiet. It's trusting that your words have value simply because they come from you. And that leads us to another shift, one that takes time but sets you free, separating connection from agreement. Many of us grew up believing that in order to be close to someone, they had to see things our way. That disagreement meant distance. That if someone didn't nod and say, you're absolutely right, then maybe they weren't on our side. But what if we let that go? What if we stopped measuring the success of a conversation by how much agreement we get, and started measuring it by how honest we were? How real we felt while saying it? You might be surprised by how many people are actually listening, even if they don't say much. Some people need time. Some don't know how to respond. And some, well, they may never get it. But none of that takes away from what you said, or how brave you were for saying it. And here's something even more powerful: when you express yourself authentically, without trying to please or impress, you give others permission to do the same. You become a lighthouse. A safe place. And in a world full of noise, that's rare. So maybe today's the day you say that thing you've been holding in. Maybe it's just a memory, or a feeling, or a quiet opinion about something. Say it. Write it. Sing it if you want to. But don't wait for applause. Don't hold your truth hostage to someone else's reaction. Because your worth isn't measured by how many people agree with you. It's measured by how fully you show up. How freely you live. How deeply you love, even when you're misunderstood. You don't have to prove yourself to anyone. Not anymore. You know, the funny thing about speaking from the heart is, it doesn't always sound perfect. Sometimes it comes out messy. Sometimes the words tremble. Sometimes we fumble for the right way to say what's inside. But that's okay. In fact, that's beautiful. Because it's real. You don't have to be eloquent to be powerful. You just have to be honest. There's a quiet strength in simply saying, this is how I feel, and letting it sit there. Not trying to dress it up. Not apologizing for it. Just letting it be. Because your feelings, no matter how quiet, how complicated, or how misunderstood, deserve space. And that brings us to something else that's often overlooked, the power of not explaining yourself. Now, that might sound strange at first. After all, we spend most of our lives justifying what we do, especially as we get older. Why we moved out of the big house. Why we stopped going to certain gatherings. Why we started painting again after all these years. People ask questions. They raise eyebrows. They poke and prod. And we feel this pressure to explain, to make them understand. But what if you didn't? What if you simply smiled and said, "It feels right for me," and left it at that? You see, you don't owe anyone your reasons. Not if sharing them costs you peace. Not if explaining yourself turns into defending yourself. Not if your why is something only your soul fully understands. Sometimes, we have to stop asking, "Will they get it?" and start asking, "Do I get it?" Because when your life makes sense to you, that's enough. And here's another truth that's hard to swallow at first, but freeing once it settles in. Not everyone is meant to walk beside you. Some people will never see you clearly, no matter how gently you speak or how often you try. They're not bad people. They're just not your people. And that's okay. You were never meant to fit into every room, every group, every conversation. You were meant to be you. And being you fully means sometimes standing alone. But don't mistake solitude for failure. Some of the most powerful moments of expression happen in silence. In your journal. In a letter you never send. In a whisper to the wind as you walk through the trees. Not every truth needs an audience. Some just need to be spoken aloud, even if only the stars are listening. Still, I know, it's human to want to be seen. To want someone to nod and say, "Yes, I understand." We all long for connection. We all ache to feel known. But here's the beautiful twist. When you stop chasing validation, you often find deeper connection. Not with everyone, but with the right ones. The ones who don't need you to explain. Who don't need you to soften or shrink. They hear your truth and say, "Thank you for trusting me with that." And even if only one person ever says that to you, it's enough. But it starts with you. With choosing to speak, even when your voice shakes. With choosing to write, even when you're not sure the words are good enough. With choosing to live by your own compass, even when others don't understand your direction. You are not too much. You are not too quiet. You are not too complicated. You are exactly as you should be, and your expression, your truth, your voice, it matters. It always has. So maybe today, your act of courage is a small one. Maybe it's saying no without explaining why. Maybe it's wearing something bold, just because you like it. Maybe it's calling that friend who talks over you, and choosing not to shrink this time. Whatever it is, let it come from your center. Let it be a gift to yourself, not a performance for someone else. Because when you start honoring your truth like that, without apology, without hesitation, you begin to feel free in a way that no one else can give you. And freedom? That's what makes life rich. That's what keeps your spirit young. That's what fills your days with meaning, even when the world outside feels loud and confusing. You've lived long enough to know, validation fades. Applause dies down. But self-respect? That stays. That grows stronger with every word you speak from the heart. And here's something else I've learned, something I hope finds its way to your heart today. The more you trust your voice, the less you fear being misunderstood. That fear, you know the one, it used to grip you like a cold wind. What if they think I'm wrong? What if they laugh, or worse, what if they say nothing at all? But the more you speak, the more you live honestly, the more you realize their silence isn't a verdict. Their disagreement isn't a rejection. And their approval? It's nice, but it's not necessary. Because what truly matters is the quiet peace that settles inside you when you express yourself with honesty. That deep exhale when you stop holding it all in. That moment you walk away from a conversation and think, I said what I needed to say, and I didn't water it down. That peace? That's yours. And it's worth everything. There will always be voices that try to drown out your own. Sometimes it's the media. Sometimes it's old beliefs from childhood. Sometimes it's even the people closest to you, who love you, but still don't fully understand you. That's okay. You're not here to live according to someone else's script. You're not a background character in your own life. You're the one holding the pen. And even now, especially now, you get to choose how your story sounds. Maybe your voice shakes when you stand up for yourself. That's still power. Maybe you speak softly but carry a depth that only a few ever notice. That's still impact. Maybe your story doesn't come out in perfect order, but it's rich with truth. That's still worth telling. And don't forget, expression doesn't always have to be loud. Sometimes it's in your garden, where each plant is placed with love. Sometimes it's in the way you dress, the colors you choose, the music you listen to when no one's around. These are all parts of you speaking. You don't need permission to be fully yourself in those moments. Give yourself space to be real. Give yourself grace to change. You've earned the right to grow, even now. Especially now. And as you express yourself more freely, don't be surprised if others start to lean in, not because you asked for their attention, but because they feel something different in your presence. Something grounded. Something honest. Something rare. That's the quiet magnetism of a person who no longer needs approval to feel alive. So the next time you feel that itch to explain, to justify, to soften your truth, pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, is this who I am? And if the answer is yes, then that's all the confirmation you need. You were born to be heard, not just with ears, but with hearts. And even if only your own heart hears you loud and clear, that's still enough. Because at the end of the day, when the lights go out and the world is quiet, the most comforting sound you'll hear is your own soul whispering, "Thank you for being honest with me." So speak. Paint. Write. Sing. Sit in silence if that's your way. But whatever you do, let it come from within. Let it be real. Let it be yours. And if this message spoke to something inside you, if it reminded you of your strength, or your softness, or your voice, take a moment to share that in the comments. Not for attention, but to remind someone else they're not alone. Because when we speak from the heart, we give others courage to do the same. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this video lifted you up, give it a like. And if you'd like more conversations like this, about real life, real feelings, and real freedom, subscribe to the channel. We're building something beautiful here, and your presence matters. Here's to living honestly. Fully. Freely. Here's to your voice, clear, kind, and unapologetically yours.